afternoon. A very warm welcome to you here in the audience and to anybody who's watching this webcam seminar. I'm Janet Davey and I'm a consultant project manager for Eco Communities. A warm welcome to our seminar here in London from United Kingdom, and we are going to be talking to you about the results of our future skills for volunteers in the third sector. So I'm very pleased to be welcoming everybody and introducing this to you. And before I say any more, I'm going to introduce you and pass you on to Dr. Marion Fields, who is the project coordinator for this for the last 2 years and has been doing an excellent job. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm just going to go, my name is Marion Fields. I come from the Civis Study Centre in Finland. Just before we start with our actual presentations, we're going to look at the program this afternoon. We would like anyone who's watching us to take part on Twitter by using the hashtag Future3Skills, so that's hashtag FUTUR3Skills, so that we can take some of your questions and comments during the final discussion in about an hour and a half's time. So this afternoon we are going to bring you some of the highlights of our project in a process of about 2 hours. The first topic is taking the European third sector to the future. We're going to talk about the project, about everything we've achieved. I'm going to talk a bit about the background to the project. Then Edita Weigel from the University of Humanities and Economics in Łódź, Poland, is going to talk a bit about research that we managed to do in this project. After that, Krasimira Bagardieva from Aspect Mir in Bulgaria is going to talk a bit about the unique peer learning model that we created in this project. After that, our guest speaker is the director of the Civis Study Centre in Helsinki, Finland, Marja-Anitta Pehkonen. She's going to talk about her research on incentives to volunteering in the future. So this afternoon is all about the future of the third sector as an employer and also the future of volunteering. This project has got a follow-up. We have been now so far working with employers and employees, and now we're going to work with volunteers as well for the next 2 years. We're going to take a short break at 25 past 4 British time, 25 past 5 Central European time, 25 to 6 Eastern European time. And at 15:45 British time, we're going to have a panel about European views on the future of the third sector. We have three panelists. We're going to talk. They can introduce themselves when they appear. Augusto Gamuzza, Magdalena Tomczak, and Janet Davey, who've all been active in this project and all have different aspects to bring to the discussion. And then we'd like, at 4:15 British time, we'd like you to go through any questions that the audience may have, and we'll also be looking at the Twitter wall then. So it's nice to have you all here. We'll go on with the program so that we can then have a good discussion. So The Future Free project has started its work in 2015 as a project between 10 countries. We were funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union and funded by the Finnish National Agency for Education. Our aim in this project has been to increase knowledge about skills needs in the European third sector and help employees, employers who supervise volunteers and educational institutions to manage these skills needs. We've had, of course, the third sector is, as an employer, very wide because it employs all kinds of professionals. In this project, we decided that we would want to focus on people who manage volunteers for a living. Because they're a diverse group of people, we know that they come from various educational backgrounds, but little is known about what skills they need, how they see the future, and how volunteering, which is growing in importance all around Europe, is going to be managed in the future. This project has brought together 10 countries. The coordination institution came from Finland, officially known as Opintotoiminnan Keskusliitto. But from Bulgaria, we have Aspect Mir, which is a company specializing, for example, in workplace development. My own institution is a non-formal adult education provider that trains the third sector, voluntary organizations. From Hungary, we have Turas Alapitvani, which is a foundation, cultural foundation. Italy, we have Cooperazione Persia Emergenti, which is a development NGO. From Latvia, Foundation for Society, which is a foundation with a social aspect in its work. From Portugal, we have a social welfare association, Kerygma. From Poland, we have the University of Humanities and Economics in Lodz. The ACTA Center from Romania is also a social NGO that focuses, for example, on youth. And ETOD from Turkey is also a social association, an NGO that works in the Ankara region. And finally, Eco Communities, who is hosting us this afternoon, works in Lewisham in London on many community development projects, for example, volunteering in libraries. So we are a very diverse group of partners. We hope that all our expertise has brought something useful to this project. So you're going to hear some more of the results of our activities from the actual specialists who ran the activities for us. But we did a benchmarking process with some desk research, a survey, interview with experts in 10 countries, and we collected good practice examples on professionalism in volunteering, basically. And we also created a peer learning model, which we tested with volunteer managers in 10 different countries. Our work, when we started, we based our work on a scenario model. We realized that we need to know what the future is like in order to prepare people for the future. And we based this on talks with professionals, on the work of various think tanks, such as the Finnish Innovation Fund Sitra, and many others. And we realized that there are multiple futures that will guide our work and that we need to take into account. The first one that we noticed is the technical one, the digital scenario, which means that a lot of volunteering in the future, even more than now, and also other activities such as fundraising, are going to take place online. And the skills that are needed, we also looked at the skills needs concerning each scenario, would be, of course, technical, also including mobile work, and also facilitating people online. The second scenario that we identified is growing inequality. We have noticed that there are many demographic changes in Europe and many political changes that will require the third sector to provide more services than it has done before, and also to speak on behalf of the people it works with. So we need skills in advocacy, we need skills in meeting people, overcoming stereotypes, and so on. The third scenario we called loose communities, and that means, in volunteering terms, probably known in many countries, that people join on a shorter basis, they change organizations, they don't necessarily form a lifelong commitment to one organization, but they will continue volunteering. This scenario, from a skills point of view, would mean that people need to manage volunteers on a different basis. Recruitment becomes important, maintaining databases to manage the recruitment process, facilitating communities online become important. The fourth scenario that we identified is the status quo, meaning that work in the sector will go on as it has so far. And this would mean, for example, coping with uncertainty in funding. Fundraising skills would also be a result of this scenario. We've tested this in our webinars with our stakeholders. We've tested it on many occasions in different countries, and we've noticed that none of these scenarios alone will take place, and all of them will take place. And the kind of organization you work for will determine to a great deal which scenario you need to be considering the most. But we also noticed that each of them is relevant. So, we've made some recommendations for third sector employers as a result. We think that advancing digitalization is quite vital at the moment. There are many signs that there is not enough happening at the moment in Europe. It means not only the skills base, but also the infrastructure. We need to invest more in digitalization. The second recommendation is that people come first. No matter how many computers and online applications your organization has, they have to be built with the idea that people want to come together. They still mostly in a face-to-face situation, but also they need communities to belong to, and social skills still remain at the core of volunteer managers' work. We've seen migration as a chance. It means that there are potential volunteers who want to come and do voluntary work, and this is a chance for the third sector all over Europe at the moment. And not only because of migration, but because this draws on the loose communities scenarios, our identities change more than before. And we have multiple identities. We take part in volunteering at different times of our lives. We need to build on diversity, and we need to understand the diversity of our volunteers. Each volunteer is an individual, so that requires skills from people who supervise them. And the last thing we found was that because we have, across Europe, uneven access to training opportunities, and there's not enough resources to fund training, we need to cooperate. We need to cooperate with companies, we need to cooperate with educational institutions, with other NGOs, with trade unions, but working together is the future. So you can follow, we have a website, a Facebook page, and a Twitter account. We'll be changing the names in due course because of the new project, but you can find us so far online. this was the background to our project. We did quite a lot of work, and first of all, we're going to hear some of the highlights of what we found out in the benchmarking process. And so I'm going to ask Edita, my colleague, to come and talk a bit about this process.
Thank you very much. My name is Edita, and I will show you a few final conclusions which we find in the research which we make through this project. If I no. Okay, first of all, I wanted to say that we have made this research in 3 steps. First, we make some desk research. We compare some statistic data to find historical and actually situation in NGO sector in these countries which we research. Then we make online enquetes with survey with manager which work with volunteers, and at the end we ask some experts to make some final conclusions about this scenario which Marion said before. We have made a lot of surveys. We ask something more than 500 people in these 10 countries. Mostly, how you see, it was women, which with higher education, which work quite along in organization. That means more than 3 years. So it was people which was very. First of all, there was professional management, and they knew how it's working. We ask for job in organization, and we try to find the most important skills which are needed in everyday work in organization. And how you see everyday things which we ask was very important in work of management of volunteers. That means this work is very complicated, very full of a different activity, and actually there is no many answers that which skills is not important in their everyday work. At the end, we wanted to find the skills which they find very important in future work in NGO sector. And we group these skills in a group which was connected with 4 scenario of development in sector, and we ask which will be very important in future. And how you see, the most important in opinion of our respondents, this is teamwork and communication. That means that work in organization is always connected with work with people. People come first, how Marion said before. This is the main important conclusions from these researchers. And actually, of course, there is a few things which are connected with technical scenario and digitalization of work of NGO. And this meeting is a best example of this. And these skills which are needed with working with people from different culture or different social class and so on. How Marion said, you cannot say which scenario will be most important in future, because every these skills are connected, every these skills are needed. In opinion of experts, the most important are the same: communication and teamwork. Communication actually not by the technical machines, communication face to face. Of course, we have to remember that social life in internet is very important, and in future we have to not be more active in internet, because this is future. But the mostly we are working with people face to face. Management. So this is what how we describe this work. Yes, we have to coordinator have to coordinate. This is the most important thing. She don't have to be a specialist in economical or law things in organization. He have to work with people and coordinate their work. Cooperation, very important skills and way to develop of third sector, and this conclusion was very often show in our cooperation through this project, because without cooperation we are not able to develop, and the way of the cooperation is quite a lot, not only because through this meeting like today in London, but through the internet or through working with each other in the internet. At the end, I wanted to remind the final conclusions that we have to remember that the world is going in the technical skills and technical way, but people are always most important, and these skills connected with face-to-face speaking will be always needed, and we always have to training with these skills. Migration and differences between poor and rich people will be very important in future, so we have to remember about the opening attitudes and work with different culture, people from different culture. We have to, of course, make cooperation much more practical. We have to work with each other in practice. So this is the way, the better way of development. So this is the summary. You can find, of course, report on website and Facebook page, and you can use it and in future work. So thank you very much. It was my conclusions, and now I ask Kazimira to show us some conclusions about peer learning model.
Hello, my name is Kazimira. I conducted the peer learning process in this project, and now I try to present to the result after the peer learning trainings. So for us it's clear that the third sector need new skills to meet the future. The third sector need new answers, require new perspectives, new skills and new approaches. And each of these concerns can be seen as an opportunity for us to design new and improve solutions. But because we understand our volunteers and our organizations better, like no one else, it's our ability and our responsibility to create solutions for the challenges we and our organizations face every day. And design thinking is one of these approaches that we use and integrate in our work. During the peer learning model, we explore what design thinking really means, or at least what we think it means for us. Design thinking, but what is design thinking? Design thinking is a process. It's a point of intersection between people, market and business, and technology. It's a process of continuously forming and testing and then reinforming our ideas about what works. In this process, we don't expect to get it right in the first time, but we expect to iterate our way to success. This is why our volunteer managers like these human-centered design techniques to understand their volunteers better, because this process makes volunteers feel more engaged in the changing environment and allows for most valuable changes, authentic changes driven by the volunteers, by the people in the center from the organization. Our peer learning model, based on the concept of design thinking as a problem-solving approach that asks 4 questions, laid out a series of steps on developing new innovative solutions designed with people at the center. The first question is what is, and it explores current reality. You know that all successful innovations begin with an accurate assessment with what is going on today. Indeed, starting out by developing a better understanding of current reality is a hallmark of design thinking. So the most specific for this process that we start with what is on today, and then we continue to develop our new idea. Most of you are managers, and as a managers, you frequently want to run immediately to the future to start the innovative process by brainstorming new options and ideas. And most managers found it hard to focus on here and now, and in most cases they are so impatient to get to create a new step. So the same results occur in our testing process. Few of them consider that the discovery phase is very important, along with the identification of the problem and discussing constraints. But attending to the present pays dividends and change completely our definition on the problem or opportunity we want to tackle. What if is, if anything were possible? That I believe, and probably you, is one of the most powerful questions anyone can ask. This phase is where brainstorming occurs and where we create our business concept. And the majority of our participants agree that the phase of brainstorming, generating and selective ideas, is the most inclusive and important one, but also argue that often selecting promising, less promising ideas is not an easy task. They think that future point of view also was good for keeping up motivation. Some things at work have already changed through new and innovative ideas. After evaluating the concept that passed the first test, a good candidate for turning into experiments to be conducted with actual users. In order to do this, we need to transform the concepts into a prototype. So finally, we are ready to learn from the real world by asking our 4 questions: what works? and trying out a prototype with actual users. If they like it and give us useful feedback, then we refine the prototype and test it with yet more users. So the overall conclusions and the overall approach to the peer learning model was positive and was welcomed with astonishment and interest by participants who all actively took part to the trainings and to our workshops. They argued that it was interesting and pleasant to share ideas and point of views with other participants coming from different fields of work, what is a very good method to foster team building and to identify professional needs or gaps of individual organizations. Most of them are going to share the model with colleagues and or test it with their volunteers. The discussion has not stopped after the workshops and training, but went further in the organizations. As a participant indicated in our trainings, it was very beneficial and interesting to solve problems with their colleagues. So enjoy our peer learning model. Thank you for attention.
Thank you, Krasimira and editor. We got some feedback from viewers who are watching us online that some of the slides are difficult to see. What we're going to do after this seminar, when we get the recording finished, we are going to add the slides with the presentation onto our website so that you can see what we've been talking about. And of course, the whole concept, the peer learning concept, and the benchmarking reports, and all our results are already can be downloaded on our website. So you can go and have a look at them there. But also, we will be having the slides from today. We've noticed that they're not that well visible. We have a few minutes before the next speaker, who's due at 10 past. If you have any questions, does anyone have any questions in the audience? Can I have editor and Krasimira, can you come up? I'd like to interview you both for a minute, so that we can go into the results a bit more. So, both of you, what was the most surprising thing you found when we did the work?
In my case, there was very interesting data about legal form of NGO sector in different countries, and this law solution are very different. And in a few countries, we find some extremely different data. For example, in Finland, the level of civil participating is very, very high. Than in different countries, and in example, in Italy there is a lot of social enterprises. In Poland we have only 15, maybe 100 social enterprises, and in Italy there is working a lot of them, and they employed something like 300 people. So this is a quite big market, and I think that we should learn from different countries, and we should look for this data and looking the solution which we can apply in our countries. So this is very important for me. And the second conclusions, which was interesting, that in NGO working usually women. This is quite family woman's world, I must say. and they usually take this function connected with not only with communication, management, and teamwork, but they are boss. They are responsibility for economy of NGO. So this is really women's world, and I wanted to work with this. At the end, I must say that the work which we make was quite easy, because I was very I was not worried about this, how this researches will be made, because my partners was responsibility for the part of the researchers in their countries. So this is very easy way to find very interesting fact in whole Europe. So our researchers are very good practice, I think. Oh, good practice. I must say that we find a very interesting good practice in our countries, and we make separately a report which called good practice, and everybody can look for this and look for this, what it's happened, what is going on in different countries. And for me it was surprising too. Even in this meeting I look for a few organizations. One of them is our we are in one of them, and we can learn from them how solve community problems and develop their community.
Okay, thank you. What about Krasimira? What was surprising for you?
For me, it was very surprising that few people like the idea to start their process for new ideas with investigating the current situation and the obstacles and problems that they could find with finding a new solution for their problems. And also it found very difficult to design their driving questions and to put some to stress on the current reality, and to think about the things that can stop them to find new solutions. This was very surprising for me.
Okay, as the coordinator, I was quite pleased that we all worked together, as Edita and Krasimira said, to work for common solutions, but still maintain the differences between the groups. So we didn't tell anyone what they should be working on, but they decided themselves. We are slightly ahead of schedule, but I would like to now invite the next speaker, who is Marja-Anitta Pehkonen, the director of the Civis Study Center from Helsinki, to talk about her research on incentives to volunteering.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Marion. It was a surprise to get this chance to tell about my research. It was just a few years ago I have done this research, but the report is not ready yet. I have to work so much. But I try to tell you something first about where is the Okay, I try to use. Can you, Marion, help me or you, because I have my papers. I can't use both of them. I hope you can hear me quite well. Yes, you can. So, what about the study centers? This is typical northern way to organize studies together. To study centers and NGO associations, and it's a quite old way to do that and very effective. We get some money from our Ministry of Education and Culture, about 30% percent of our financing is coming from ministry. We are having together about 200,000 citizens who take part to our activities. So altogether, Civis is the biggest one, and Marion, could you change? Thank you. And then we don't need any special buildings at all, or some schools at all, because we are organizing education everywhere people need to have it. So I told about Civic Study Center is the biggest one, and we have about 150,000 people who take part every year to the studies. We are organizing together our member associations. As Red Cross, for example, everybody knows Red Cross. It's very international, big association. For example, Free Fire Bridge organization, it's very important Finnish association. 4AIDS, for example, it's also international organization. Then the next one, please. And we support our member organization by financing them, but also giving some expert and professional support. We guide them how to form education courses, how to plan the wholeness of the studies, and so on. How to evaluate, for example, we collect feedback from people who take part to the studies. And one example about this is this research, these results I have got. Okay, then we can go to the incentives. Okay, there you are. Next one, please. Yes. And then next one, incentives. And one more, thank you. So there is 150,000 registered associations in Finland, and it's not very easy to stay in right place. I don't remember to do that, but I hope I success now. Yes, I do. And we have 1,200,000 about volunteers. It's nearly the fourth of our over 15-year-old citizens. So we are very eager to do voluntary work. It's everyday life and very important in our society. We can say that Finland is the promised land of the associations. But nowadays, some young people don't take part so eager as they has taken part earlier. It's a pity. We try to find ways we can get them more with us. Then the next one, please. So I was collected this data by asking just one question. It was, what could help you to do voluntary work in future? Just one question. It was open-ended question, and some of the answers told, or they said just a few words. Some of them used a lot of space, told many sentences or statements. when they are answering. It was about, next one, please. About, I can say, 1900 people who answer it, so quite many. And they produced over 5,000 sentences or statements. Next one. Okay. And the most important purpose of the study was to find what is the wholeness of the incentives in voluntary work. And next one, please. I hope you can see it at, but maybe I speak this also aloud because if somebody's looking this via internet, so they can't see this slide. So the first one was resources. Second one, self-development. Third one, well-being. Then results, feedback, organization, regard, training and supervision, community support, community support and rewards, helping others, and then advocacy. Next one, please. And I open these all afterwards, right now. First, for resources. Volunteers' personal resources are very important. The time, you can guess that if you don't have any time to do voluntary work, you can do it. And these can be also unincentives, did I say. If you don't have, for example, enough money to take part, it's a pity. Many people who are living outside cities, they have to buy their own tickets to go to the volunteer centers, for example. So it can be also an incentive. Then attitudes. Not yet, please. Attitude. So if, for example, if the family don't support to do voluntary work, it's not very easy to do that. You can understand it very well. All those are very subjective, all of these incentives. Then we come later to these intensive that are depending on other things. Then assets, I told about it a little before. Then life situation. Maybe you are busy, you have small children, you can take part, can't take part. Then health. Also, health situation can be so difficult that they don't have any possibilities to take part. Here is one example what people told about this. Once you have volunteered in different tasks for 18 years without a break and also had a day job, it is time to take it easy. So don't have time or don't have any possibilities to take part. And then personal development. Learning new things. You know that many volunteers think that it's very nice to learn new things via doing voluntary work. Then self-development. They think also that their personality can develop by this. Interests. If they are interested in some special subject, they would do, and they would like to know some more about it via working as a volunteer. Here is one sentence from all those 5,000. Learning new things. In volunteering activities, it's possible to gain experience of supervising others, which would otherwise be impossible at this age. 22. It's also possible to gain other employability skills such as communication and public speaking and cooperation with others. That's true. This is very young answerer, 22 years old, and do voluntary work in Finnish counters. They can have their responsibilities in very young ages. Then well-being. This concerns volunteers and their families' psychological well-being. Anyway, it's very subjective thing. Happiness, joy, useful activity, sense of being useful or necessary, alleviation of sense of loneliness. Everybody knows that it is very, it gives a lot to person who takes part as a volunteer. You can think that it's better what you do. Very important. We have, in Finland, for example, we have more and more single persons and also older people who are living alone. So they can meet each other and help also other people. In my opinion, volunteering should be something that makes you feel useful. It's also important that you get joy and happiness out of it. Yes, thank you. Then, results. One feels that voluntary work is useful and sees its results to be very important. Somebody thinks that if I do some voluntary work, so I have to see what it means to others, or something that are going to be happen when they do voluntary work. It's a good, sensible cause. It's very simple to say it, but that's true. Then feedback. Receives positive feedback about their volunteering from a beneficiary or someone else. They think that if they can see that they really can help somebody, and she or he is saying it aloud or showing it in some other way, or for example, some of the family can give some feedback that they are very happy about this help, so it's enough. Positive feedback from my organization and our participants is an incentive. Then organizing. Voluntary work is organized. It does mean task distribution, enough volunteers, so they think that they won't do it alone. It's too heavy to do when you can't get any help from each other. Volunteering activities that vary in duration and regularity. That's some of them. It's very important too. There are only one part of these answers who think like that. You have to remember that. Then cooperation with authorities. It's very much easier if somebody is discuss authorities in community before you are going to work as a volunteer. It's very important too. Communication, marketing, who tells in community, for example, what kind of voluntary work they have, they can do, people can do. It's very important too. 10 tools and facilities. For example, in free fire bridge art, they can do anything if they don't have any tools to do it. Just open hands doesn't, they are not enough. Here one example, informing and communicating with hospital staff more effectively to ensure more contact with the patients. And another one, at the moment I haven't got a clear idea about where my input is needed. Where is that tired mother who needs help with looking after the children? Then volunteering is regarded highly outside their own community. So it's very important that, for example, in society, in media, Central Association is showing how much they like about these volunteers, and they are so important. Okay, staying, yes, right place, right position, thank you. And then also earmarked foundings that they can get some money that they can use which they can use in voluntary work. It's very important too. It's regard. Regard from our headquarters, says one. Then training and supervision. They also wait that they can train their skills and knowledge, and community association give them that kind of support. Training gives you certainty, which is then reflected in your activities. You know that people learn a lot in voluntary work. Then community support, community spirit. It's nice to do together. It's very important too. Activities are based on enjoyment and fairness. Others help out. Feeling of being welcomed. Very, very important items. In my opinion, a group that listens to and values others' ideas is inspiring and encouraging with like-minded people volunteering. Then rewards. Some of them also wait that they can get some rewards. Not so much money. It is not included in voluntary work, but excursion and events, special training events, patches, and other types of rewards. The Red Cross organizes training events and reactional excursions to each spa. Helping others, it's one incentive. Helping others as a way of life, specified beneficiaries, either near or far. Willingness to help, the joy of working toward helping other people. Then, at least, advocacy, at last, advocacy. Making wrong things, both locally and globally, human rights, environment and protection, political campaigning. Here is one statement. The ideological nature of volunteering, I can accept the principles of my activities. I think it's very important to everybody. Then, many challenges, as you told us before, on voluntary work, so we have a lot of challenges, how to provide, how to support, what to do, and you have given some answers to. Incentives are very individual, so it's a challenge. Incentives are complicated and changing all the time. It doesn't mean that if somebody begins as a volunteer the next year, incentives will be the same. Incentives require a lot of know-how, both from the staff and group leaders. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marja-Anitta. Does anyone have any questions to ask? Because we have time for a few questions before we take a short break to set us up for our final panel of the day. I think that one of the things that comes across from everything we have heard already today is that as volunteers we are a very diverse group of people. So the incentive, what makes a volunteer motivated to volunteer now and in the future, we must know the volunteer. We don't have a group of volunteers where everyone would be the same year in, year out. And society changes. I think a lot of our research results and what we heard from Marja-Anitta this afternoon points towards this. And it means also that people who supervise volunteers need to keep their skills updated all the time. We are slightly ahead of our schedule. We will take a 15-minute break and come back at 4:45 British time, 4:45 Central European time, and 5:45 to people who are watching, for example, in Finland, Latvia, Bulgaria, Romania, or Turkey. So see you in 15 minutes.